Hey everybody, it's Treetop Flyer here. Thanks for tuning in. We are back again with the Ultimate Turret Press from Lee Precision. I've already done a video on this early on when I first got it. And so this is going to be kind of a part two, and I just share with you more about the anatomy of this press and kind of cover some of the evolution of it already after being out. I think it's been out about 4 months now. So anyway, that's what this video is going to be about. There's another video out there. If it seems like I'm starting in the middle of something, it's because I probably answered all that in the previous video, and I will put a card up if that still works, or there'll be a link down below and tagged at the end of this video. So if you want to find that video, if you haven't seen that, that'll probably help kind of set up this video. I want to give a quick shout out to Walter Bunning. He and I have done a little collaboration on this. He got his press a little after mine. And so he's been a great resource for me, and hopefully I've been for him. But we've talked quite a bit about the different things. He's given me heads up. Anyway, he has a channel, Walter Bunning, on Rumble, which I'll link down below. And he also has a channel on YouTube, which is Viejo, or at Viejo2A is the how to get a hold of him there. Again, I will put links to both of those down below, so make sure you check him out. All right, I don't want to backtrack too much over what I covered in the other video, but I do think it is worth giving kind of an overview before we get in here. So this turret press is very unique in many ways. So let me just say a turret press allows you to set up your dies in a turret that's already on your press, and you can bounce back and forth between dies and keep your case in the shell holder the whole time. So that's kind of the basis of the turret press. Allows you to be set up and stay that way. Lee turret presses are different because they add a feature, which is auto indexing. So you see the turret move, it's all moving because it has an indexing rod. It turns the turret for me, so I stay on track, and it speeds up the operation. You still leave the cartridge in until you're finished or whatever you want to accomplish. But in auto indexing, you don't go back and forth like you would on the other. Now, the Ultimate Turret Press, that's something new that we've had that for a while. But the Ultimate Turret Press is different because they've taken it quite a bit farther. Now, in addition to auto indexing, now I have multiple turrets of different varieties. So there's a 4-hole here, there's a 5-hole here. This is a 6-hole, and I have it set up so that I can use a 3-hole as well. So 3-hole configuration, you change the indexing rod to a 3-hole, to have a 3-hole twist on it, and it will skip every other die position on the 6-hole. So I'm using a 6-hole to do a 3-hole function. Pretty basic, but this is something we haven't had before, is a different turrets with different numerical values. Now that only matters really if you're using an indexing system. So the indexing system, if you didn't have an indexing system, like say you had the Lyman 8 or the T7, you'd be able to just move back and forth to whatever die you want to use. But since you're using the indexing, you want to be able to use all of the die holes for the economy of motion. So that is something that is really, really interesting. And the reason that came about, as I understand it, was the 4-hole turret press guys saw that we had a bullet feeder from Lee that was doing a great job and it's economical. And they wanted the convenience of their 4-hole turret press. They liked the one-at-a-time approach of a turret press, but they wanted 5 holes to be able to add the bullet feeder with what they were already doing. So Lee responded, and this is the result of that. Now, in addition to what we've already talked about, one of the concepts behind this is the turrets are captive. So you have to take these bolts out to get to the turret to replace it with one of the other ones. And then you have indexing rods for each one that will change the rotation. So I've got one for 5, one for 4, one for 6, and then the number 3 is in there. So they all have a different twist on them. That's how they come about doing it. The press as it ships, comes with a 5-hole turret, and then these extra turrets, the 6 and the 4, these are accessories, and you have to order those separately. They don't come with the press kit, so you need to make that clear. So one of the other things that is unique about this is it employs their Lee's breech lock system. And breech locks is just a method of turn and lock to hold your dies in place, and allows for quick die changes and you can hold your setting. So I could take it out, I could put it back in, and I have basically the same setting. Where this is nice is, let's say I had a 6-hole configuration for a cartridge, and I had all my dies set up, and then I'd done some other work, priming, sizing, whatever, and I don't really need that whole configuration. Well, in this case, I could drop down to a 3-die configuration, which is exactly what I did here, and put in the 3-die rod, indexing rod, and now I could just fill with powder, dispense a bullet, and seat. I keep my settings. That's the big thing, is even though I came from a different configuration, I can move these around, and as long as I have them set, they'll keep their settings. So that's a really nice feature that I like. You will end up, if you go with this platform and you have multiple calibers that you want to do on it, you're going to invest in some breech locks. Now, as far as I'm concerned, not all of these breech locks are the same. There's basically 3 different ones. So this is my favorite one. It's got this lock ring on top that you can tighten down. So you set this in place, you get your die all set, and then you lock it down, and it's a very stable platform, and it stays put. So this type right here, I'm not sure what they call it, but of the 3, this is my favorite, particularly on this press. Now, my second favorite, let me just show you here on this one, is the old steel ones. So these are the original ones as far as I know. And what I like about these is if you use them in conjunction with, say, a bullet seating die or a sizing die, you can use that collar to lock hard against the steel, and it ends up being kind of like one system as long as you get it locked in. Now, these are hard to get a hold of. They're really made for a different style press, but as long as this nut stays jammed on it, you can use them, and they lock in nice and tight and are very repeatable on your settings. So let's see. There's the old steel one, and then there's the one that came with them. They call this Smart Breech Lock here. But these breech lock bushings, it comes with a set of 5 of them when you buy it. I don't really like these too much. And the reason is because they just have, move this around. They just have an O-ring in the top that's supposed to provide resistance to hold your setting, which, I don't know. I don't think they really do that well. And then on top of that, there's a little bit of play inside the housing there that if you do anything tall, like say a powder measurer setup like that, and you use one of these bushings, you're going to get some wobble in it because the threads on the aluminum they're just a little bit coarser, and they have a little bit more room in those threads. So I would say those Smart Breech Lock bushings, if I'm buying them, I'm not buying those. I have them, I'll use them, and like they seem to work okay on these bullet feeders. They don't really require you to keep a really exact adjustment. So that's one place that I've been using them. But really, my favorite is going to be the one like this. So if you have to buy these. And really, they're almost the same price. So that's my advice. Handles, linkage, and stops. Let's get into this a little bit here. Let me move that basket out of the way. So first of all, we're saying this handle is available on Lee with these two 10-degree bushings. And this will actually go on your Lee Classic turret press. It'll fit on there. So you can buy these 2 bushings. It gives you that 10-degree tilt and the handle if you wanted to upgrade your handle situation on your Lee Classic turret press. So that's worth noting. So let's talk about the linkage here. One thing that is worth noting on all Lee presses is they have stops in the linkage right here. See this stop right here? Both sides. It comes up and has a nice firm stop there. That is different than the way a lot of the other manufacturers do it, like RCBS. They have a cam over situation here. So you actually go past center or top dead center. You hit the die if it's adjusted to that, and then you get this pressure field and then a toggle. So we call that cam over. Lee presses rely on the stops. So, I think you could make an argument for one or the other or both at sometimes. I think the stops are nice because they let you make adjustments to that physical stop without actually having to load up the linkage. I don't see any repeatability problems with that. I've done lots of shoulder setback, which is the finest adjustment you can do, and been fine with either one. So it's tomato. But the one thing I will say that's worth noting is on the Lee presses, one thing I don't really think is super helpful is when you get to the bottom, so you have this linear axial motion, right? This whole axial, and the linkage is not putting any side loads on it. It's just swinging underneath it and slowing down when it gets to the top. But with a Lee press, when you hit the stops, now the handle becomes, in some cases 90 degrees to the ram, and it actually locks the linkage. And instead of this being straight axial motion, at the very bottom, when you hit, you get a radial movement. So this ram at the top of the ram is going to correspond once you lock in there, and it's going to want to tip the top a little bit. So I don't think that's super helpful in things like bullet seating. But, with any piece of equipment, it's worth understanding the equipment. No matter what it is, the more you understand about your equipment, you know how to use it properly, you don't run into problems. So the answer to that in terms of concentricity or whatnot is when you're bullet seating, you don't have to stand on this handle. Use it as a reference point, go to touch, firm touch, won't hurt anything. And that's all you need. So like I said, it's all about understanding your equipment and getting the most out of how it works. All right, guys, just wanted to give you a good look here underneath on this press. So remember, these links came from the 50 BMG, and they're a little bit longer. Obviously, they're very robust, but there's something to note here. On my classic turret press, my linkage stops right about there. So I never get that full top dead center because the stops that we talked about earlier are in the linkage. But this press, actually, the linkage swings clear under. So that tells me I have access to the full, what would be cam over or top dead center leverage. I just don't get that toggle because I hit my stops a little bit later here. So I don't get that toggle feel on it, but I am getting the leverage of it. The other thing that's worth noting is because of that, there's less room back here. So how you mount it is going to make a difference. So if you don't have room to swing under, you might have some interference there. All right, a little bit about priming levers. So I had some trouble with priming levers. I have busted 2 of the small primer levers. Snap this off right here. I'll put a picture in there so you can see it, but I don't know what caused it. I broke one right away, and I thought, well, that's weird. Those priming levers, incidentally, are the same ones, same part number they use on the Value turret press. So I broke one right away, and I figured I did something wrong, got something jammed up because I'm always messing with everything. And then the second one I broke, I think I was doing some 9mm brass, and it's possible that I had that I didn't get a primer pocket cleaned up. It had a crimp primer pocket or something, and I just put a little bit too much force on it. Not really sure about that. What I will say is that these are aluminum, whereas the old ones were steel. So I think they're probably going to have to upgrade these based on my experience. Now, I don't know if I did something wrong or something weird, but I will say that I called Lee up and they sent me out 2 brand new ones to replace the ones that were damaged. So anyway, that's something to keep an eye on, guys. I don't know how that's going to turn out, but while we're talking about that, let me take this basket off and let me show you something else. So take the primer lever out. See this little basket holder here fits into this slot. This ends up being part of the geometry of the primer lever, right? It's right there. You can see the wear mark on it. So I thought, you know, maybe there's sometimes I don't want to have this there. I'll just take it out. But what I found was the geometry, it changes the geometry and how this swings. So I'm reaching in here. See, it catches right there because it starts to swing a little late. So that's something to, like I said, that's something to keep an eye on. And just know that this little 3/16 piece of plastic is part of the geometry. It kind of has to be there. All right, so before we take this apart, just a couple more things I want to cover. First of all, it's worth noting that I have the upgrade kit, all the parts for the index ball. So when this thing first came out, it didn't have an index ball. So it had an inertia problem. So when you drop it all the way down, if there was weight up here, it would tend to overshoot and it would go past the mark that you needed to line up with this pinhole. So you'd end up with this kind of weird, like couldn't line up without an index ball in there. So we found some ways to mitigate it. We use, they call for STP. One of my subscribers asked what I thought of using Lucas assembly lube. He was talking about the red, but I actually had some of the green, and it's very sticky and tacky, and it mitigates some of that spin. So the next thing that we found, and this is thanks to Walter and somebody that he knew, I guess, on Facebook, simple solution. And I'm saying this just because not everybody has this update kit, and maybe not everybody wants to. But we found that if you just took a tie strap and kind of tucked it in behind here, I can get that in there. It puts a little bit of friction on this thing, and it helps reduce that over. Well, I can't get it in there, but you tuck the tail in behind there, and it does a really good job of, let's see, there we go. Puts a little extra friction on there. That combined with the oil, and it worked almost every time. But still, personally, me, for 20 bucks, I'm going to recommend that, or just get them to send it to you because they owe it to all of us because it's ridiculous to ship it out like that. Anyway, that's water under the bridge, but I did want to show you that. Let me give you the part numbers here. Here's the order paperwork I had. So you've got these, I'll put this up there. You guys can hit pause. The chrome ball is TP2114. The spring is TP2115. And the bearing plate with the holes cut in it is TP5536. The whole thing was $20.70 shipped. I don't know what the future looks like, but that's what it is as of making this video. Last thing I want to say while we're sitting up here is, you see I've got these markings here. These markings are for the different turrets. So it's nice to have a visual reference for each turret, and you just use the hole here. So in this case, you see my pin is up, so I'm aligned with the 6-hole turret. So 6 and 3 are going to be this red line. See how it corresponds there? And then if I had the 5-hole in, it would stop right there on that black one. And then the 4-hole would stop on this green line. That's just what I did. I like to have a visual reference because it is a little bit different the way it works. So anyway, that's that. What's next? I guess one last thing to show here. Let me get lined up. So I've got the shell kicker on here. And one thing to understand is when whatever your last die is going to be over on this quadrant. So if you see this little relief here for your indexing rod, that little dark notch there, you're going to want that kind of over here to use your shell kicker. It'll only go on one way or 180 degrees out. So, but if you set your dies up, so this was my last die, and my shell kicker just came past the shell holder. So I'm in the right configuration for this 3-hole setup that I have here. Anyway, wanted to show you that. Now we're taking it apart. All right, so I think you can see that. So let's take this down here. This little thumb nut, thumb screw fits in the top here, and that's what keeps your indexing rod in place. So you can just kind of reach up there and pull that loose. Sometimes it gets stuck a little bit, and I'll just rotate this and push down, and that'll unseat it. So you get your shell kicker off of there. So here's your, you see I've got the number 3 in there. This is the little shell kicker. This stuff is super simple, simply made, but it works. Walter had issues with his. It was kind of sprung or something. So you might check out his video there and see what his solution was. But I haven't personally had any trouble with it. So take this loose. Oh, that was already kind of loose. Now, this is what I would have to do if I want to change to, say, a 4-hole. Look, so as your turret housing comes off, you can see how the turret rides in here in this area here. This is a 6-hole turret. And this is the new bearing plate with the relief holes. Let me show you this again. So you can see how this one does, the original one doesn't have the holes in it. So I got the relief holes for the bearing. So the bearing and spring just fit in these 2 cups. So you have to have 2 cups here because 2 of your die setups, the dies are diametrically opposed to each other. So my pin comes up here, so the opposite position. I'm going to have a place for this. So the 3-hole, 6-hole, 4-hole all go in here. Obviously, the 5-hole is not diametrically opposed, so it has to have its own. So this one over here is where you put the spring in the ball for that, and that's what uses this this extra hole right here. So there was some talk that they might have been mismarked, but mine wasn't. So let's see what else here. Let's pull this loose. One thing I want to show you is you saw the ball bearings right in here. So I think I talked about this early on, but while the pin is coming up in this hole over here, the bearing is falling into this relief on the opposite side here. So you get, that's how it works on this 6-hole, 3-hole solution. So just the bearing is rolling from here to here to here as it goes through. So these are a little bit big for that 1/4-inch bearing. So there is a little bit of play, but the alignment pin, once it gets close enough to hit there, it's going to tighten everything up and line everything up. All right, so let's pull the shell holder out here. And let's pull this, I think they call this a chute and clutch housing. So here's your alignment pin that goes through. Let me set this up for you and see if I can make it make sense here. So you see there's a guide that this comes through here. And I'm just going to hang that on there like that. And then there's a notch here in the bearing plate that helps align everything also. So I'm just going to hang that right on here so you can see it like so. And then you see the pin has that nice hole to go through here. And this is how it sandwiches up and it fits nice and tight. So anyway, you can see how there's a little bit of help on keeping this pin aligned also, which is kind of a nice feature. Now, this little gizmo here is what holds your shell holder in place. And this is my least favorite part. I just think it's kind of cheesy. I don't mind the other non-structural plastic parts, but this one, I know why they did it, because there wasn't room to fit that snap ring that we used to have in there to hold the shell holder in place. So they came up with this little plastic part. It works. I don't like it. I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way, but let's move on. So what else do we have here? This, so here's your clutch housing here. I'll give you a good look at it all the way around. And to take that out, you don't have to take this clear off to do this, but to take this out, you just pop this cover off. It's notch so it snaps in place. And then this is your clutch. This is where all the magic happens. So you can see the teeth on this clutch housing here. Lots and lots of teeth all the way around. And then the clutch itself has corresponding cone shape teeth. So it can really engage anywhere, kind of like the clutch on your truck. You know, wherever you let your foot off the pedal, it's going to grab the flywheel and lock. And that's kind of how this works. There's a little bit of friction required to make it work. See if I can show that. So this little clutch has to kind of grab onto the metal. So in one mode, it releases and then it can spin freely. And then in the other mode, when you're going the opposite direction, it locks. And so as it continues to move, the twist in this turns this and turns the turret. So it can really lock up in any position there. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, so you can see that my thoughts on this are, so far, I haven't had any trouble with it at all. I think you probably want to keep it clean. Like if it gets powder or something in there, I can see that kind of fouling it a little bit. So far, I haven't had that issue. If there's a wear part amongst all these parts, I think it's going to be this clutch. You know, the grip on the shaft that is required to make it work, and then maybe the teeth over time. I don't know. These things still look brand new to me. So, incidentally, all of the blow molded plastic parts that you see on this press are currently offered in a kit on the parts list for this press. You can order all of those parts. I saw it once for $10 and now it says $0, and you can put it in the cart and it says in stocks. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but it looks like you can order those parts as service parts, like maybe warranty parts, but you get all this stuff. So if you wanted to play around with, like, for instance, you know, you wanted to have extra clutch and maybe you don't like to prime on the press. So maybe you want to take this off and get it out of your way, just kind of nip this piece off. For that price, you know, to have parts that you can work with, I think that's actually kind of cool. All right, so let's put this all back together. So the clutch, you can just drop this on any old way. Doesn't make any difference. Make sure it's seated, and then you have this retainer piece. We'll put that on. See how this is relieved on this side, on the bottom side here, so that it fits over. Like I said, you don't have to take all this off to do this. I'm going to go ahead and put this little shell holder retainer in place. Now, when you put this on, you want to make sure that it's seated all the way down. I think maybe that might be what caused me trouble with my priming lever. Maybe I didn't have it seated all the way. So you want to get that pushed down nice and hard. We'll go ahead and put a shell holder back in there, keep it in place, and it's time for assembly. So one thing I've already noticed is when you assemble this, you take it apart, it's worth going in here and cleaning, get the powder off of here, any dirt that might have gotten in there, because this is a stack. So you want to clean that up. This goes on like so, fits nice and snug. Here again is my new, let's go ahead and put the ball in here. So yeah, let's put it in the 5-hole slot, the way it comes. So this time I'm going to move it over here. We just set it like that. Clean this off so we don't get any grinding or anything. And it just kind of rests like that with the ball kind of partway poking through. I'll take the 5-hole turret here. Make sure there's no grit or anything like that on it. Clean it off. And we'll set this down like so. Oh, I want to put a little bit of this lube on here, a little bit on here, a little bit on this piece here, and then some on here where it tracks. And that makes it run nice and smooth. And one thing that I've noticed that I think could be better, I wish these were shoulder bolts. I wish they had a shoulder here that fit better into these holes here. When you put this thing together, there's a little bit more play around the turret housing that I would like. I kind of wish it was bushed. But what I've come to do here is, so I'm lined up with my 5-hole mark. You see how easily my pin came through. So what I've come to do is use the pinhole as alignment and leave it all kind of loose. You see, it's got a little bit of room you can exploit there. And then I'm just going to hit this with a wrench. So now you can hear the index ball going in there. So let's go ahead and set this back up. We'll put the 5. Drop this back in. Thumb screw. And now I'm indexing. You see I'm coming up on that black mark with the 5-hole now. And let's see, what else? What else did I want to show you? You know, guys, that's pretty much it. We're put back together again. Like I said, I've got some other videos that I have on Rumble of actually using the system, reloading. I think I've got 3 over there specific to Rumble. So you might want to check that out. All right, so in closing, I don't know, maybe I can characterize this for you a little bit. I have come to like this press quite a bit. It's you have to tinker with it a little bit. The more you add function and automation, you're going to have, you know, once you get away from simplicity, you're going to have some things to tinker with. It's not the same as just a single stage press, which is the ultimate in simplicity when it comes to reloading presses. So I guess, you know, this press works. I did a lot of thinking about who might want this press or what it might work for, who it might work for. So first of all, I would say the first people that will be interested is the Lee folks, people who already had like a classic 4-hole turret press and they want to add a bullet feeder or something like that. It's already going to work with something you're used to. So I think people will be drawn to it for that reason. Me, I'm a guy who likes options. So to put that into perspective, I have a 4-door diesel 2500 truck with 4-wheel drive. So although I don't haul people all the time, I can. And although I don't pull stuff all the time, I can. And although I don't carry something all the time, I can. And I have 4-wheel drive. I don't go out looking for a reason to get stuck, but if I need it, I've got 4-wheel drive when I want it. So that's how I am. I like options. So this press works very nicely for me. I can kind of freewheel on this in a lot of different ways. Another thing people ask me sometimes about turret presses is, would you do that for a first press? What if I just wanted to use a single stage press? And could I use this for a single stage press? Of course you can. You just take the index rod out like so. You drop in whatever die you want to use. And now it's a single stage press. I could size cases all day long, just like that. So yeah, you could do that, or you can select the automation, lots of different options that you don't have with other presses. So that I really like. Yes, you could use it as a single stage press. Would this be a good first press? That's a tough one. It does require a little bit of tinkering. Like I said, you've got to kind of pay attention to it a little bit because it does offer more options. But I don't think if you're mechanically inclined at all, you won't have any trouble with this. Now, if you're a person that wants to take something out, which is perfectly normal, out of the box, set it up and never think about it again, never have to tune anything or adjust anything, it just works, maybe not this press. It's like I said, it's got a few quirks. It's getting better. The indexing ball really fixed a lot of problems that this press had. Couple little quirky things, but for the most part, it's usable. And I think for myself, the one thing that the testament is, I have a lot of presses. And so far, the only two presses I've used in the last 3 months is this press and a single stage. So I haven't felt compelled to go to something else. I haven't felt compelled to go back to my 4-hole turret press, which I love, but I'm kind of liking this one too. All right, everybody, that's going to be a wrap for this video for part 2. And if you guys have anything that you're interested on this press or you'd like to see me do with this press, give me a shout out. Tell me what you're interested in. Maybe I can show it to you. But like I said, I've got a couple of 3 videos that aren't on YouTube over on Rumble. So check me out over there, and appreciate the subscribe on both places if you can, and the likes and all that stuff. I'm trying to get something going over there on Rumble. Like I said, Walter's already on Rumble. He's doing good over there. There's lots of other content creators for reloading that have taken up residence over there. So check out their channels as well. What else? Anyway, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and let me know if there's something else you'd like to see. Take care.